The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And I'm Nelson.
And it is Friday in the River. As you see, we have a third member here at the panel. The desk is full today. And I'll tell you what, this should be like a 5-hour show. We got so much to talk about. It is just nuts. But look at, and I know there was a newspaper article, and we got so many things to do. But let's start with the police, because there was an article that was absolutely absurd. It's like there's nothing we can do about it. This is it, accept crime. Is that what a police chief says? We're going to accept crime? And then he says it's the same way from here to San Francisco. He actually wants to use San Francisco. I just looked up the population of San Francisco. It's 812,000 people. Plus, they've allowed homelessness to overtake that city. The city people have fled from that city. Great comparison, Chief, because that's what's going to happen to Fall River when we have the attitude we have to accept crime. Well, we don't have to accept crime. I understand you're on demand, and it's difficult, and you have to be reactive, but it doesn't mean you can't attempt to be proactive. Why not bring in some people from the sheriff's department or the state police or something? Do something. Get neighborhoods involved in community watch so we can get alerted first.
Well, the problem with...
You know, it's not... Wait a minute. Just let me get with it, because I am livid that somebody that's in law enforcement would throw in the towel. You know something? If that's the case, and then the big pay raises they got, after you admit they can't do anything about crime, why not hold the pay raises until we get people on a job, until we get full complement? No, just give it to everybody now and then say they can't actually protect us. That is the biggest crock, and I have nothing but respect for the police on the street. But all this guy is doing is being an apologist for the mayor because it's an election year. And he knows that crime has run rampant for 3.5 years that this mayor has been in, and he was appointed by this mayor. So I'm calling it out. I'm calling the balls and strikes, and this one is a strike.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but one of the problems with getting the neighborhoods involved is the neighborhoods have been ostracized by the mayor. Yeah. He doesn't even talk to some of the neighborhood associations. Accordingly, because I don't want to have a phone call saying that I was wrong, I was informed by Carlos Caesar, president of the Flint Neighborhood Association, that he was told that meetings were being held. And Carlos said, nobody's inviting me. Nobody's telling me about them. I know nothing about them.
Well, he's only the president of the Flint Neighborhood Association.
Right, exactly.
Why should he know?
And I mean, I don't know if John Sylvia knows about them. Helen Rigo probably knows because, she is an appointee of the mayor for 2 boards, which she's not supposed to be. It's only supposed to be 1 board. But this mayor doesn't care about the charter. But wait a minute, I follow the charter. But there used to be a monthly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly meeting with the mayor and the neighborhood associations. They'd come in, they'd sit around the table, and they'd say what the problems were. The neighborhood associations meet, and the police come in and they give a report of the crimes going on in their neighborhoods, and they're going up.
Well, let me wrap up my thing, because listen, this is I'm calling BS on this one. The flag goes up because, listen, when they're on demand on a fire department, and we've been on demand, crew-wise for a long time, you go to fires. You have to accept the fact, and you bring it to the mayor's attention, that there will be more property damage and a greater risk of loss of life when you're on demand. But you still go to the fires. And the thing is that police officers are out there, and we understand they're undermanned, and they have to be a lot of reactive. But to try to make excuses, see, this is why I was against contract chiefs. This is why we were the only union to not go to contract chiefs, because I fought it under Carlton Viveris. I still have the articles. The reality is we were the only department in the city of Fall River to maintain a civil service chief. And my position was, if you're there on civil service, they can't throw you out for standing up for the truth.
Right.
That you need manpower and calling it. But when you're a contract chief, it says bye-bye if you don't walk to the orders of the mayor, not to the people you're supposed to protect. And again, contract chiefs and police and fire should not exist. They should be civil service, and that way if they don't do the job, you have to prove it wasn't they didn't do the job, not march the political line.
Right.
This is nuts, okay? Yep. This is nuts. And as far as urban policing, you're right. A lot of people want to do urban policing, but they don't want to do urban policing in cities where they don't get any support. Right. And we've seen what happens. The people do not want to go to Seattle and Portland because their woke city councils are always defunding the police. Police officers will go to communities where they're supported by the public and where they're making a competitive wage. They don't go to urban policing. Nobody goes to urban areas that police don't get support. So we support our police in this city. So let's stop this ridiculous excuse making, because Paul Coogan has done nothing in 3.5 years on anything, and now he's trying to minimize the crime issue. And you know something? You can't just say people care about, of course people care about their neighborhoods. We care about our cities. And we know that if it happens in one neighborhood, ultimately if we don't make some type of aggressive action, regardless of what it is, it'll go to all the neighborhoods like it did in Atlanta, Georgia, when it went to Buckhead, who now wants to get out of Atlanta and create their own community, which is the richest part of Atlanta, Georgia. So with that, that's it. That just infuriated me.
Well, and you know, the chief said in the article that the manpower he is understaffed. He's expecting 10 more people out of the academy, and that the problem with it being understaffed is there's mandatory overtime, and there's a lot of forced overtime, and he's afraid of burnout.
Well, how about this? See, I said I'd shut up, but I can't. Right. When you say that, I got a brain that works in those departments. They got a hell of a lot of people. We got 12 cars,
right? 12
sectors, and I don't know how many foot patrols we got, but I can tell you one thing: there's a lot of people doing office duty.
Well, he talked about that.
There are a lot of people. Well, why don't they just put a little bit more work on some, get some of those people back on the street. Yeah. Listen, I don't know what he can do, but I can tell you one thing: that police department needs an outside chief to come in and take a look at it, because this whole thing is nothing. The timing of this stinks to the high heavens. You need a gas mask to get near this article. It is so full of political BS. This is giving cover to the mayor, because you know what the mayor's going to say when his opponents hit him on crime? Well, you look what the police chief said. Well, the police chief didn't say this when he got on as a police chief. Mm-hmm. The previous police chief didn't say this. Mm-hmm. The chief before that, because we've had 3 police chiefs under Paul Coogan, not one of them said, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
Bingo.
All of a sudden, when it's an election year, there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, also, look, our police department needs to be basically done from the ground up, all right? Because all the chaos with that investigation report, you know, and let's be real here. He has political connections to Paul Coogan.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about that.
He has it. The history's there. That's number one. And look, if he wants to throw in a towel, then I think we ought to just get another police chief.
I don't think the article said he wanted to throw in the towel.
No, not like that, but that's what the people are going to get.
But that's the gist you can take from it.
Exactly.
I think one of the biggest problems is that he mentioned, as Chip said, take some people off the desk. As he said, he took somebody out of the drug trafficking task force and put him back on the street. He's taking people out of the office and putting them back on the street, but that's not that. They're still short-staffed.
At the end of the day, the buck stops with those who are in charge of overseeing everything.
That's right.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you say. The buck stops with Paul and the chief, because the people are going to demand answers, and that is the impression people are going to get, is that, there's nothing we can do.
Right. Right.
I'm sorry, that is just unacceptable, and that the public deserves more than an answer like that.
Yeah, and
that I saw
guess
this
what?
morning.
There are communities who have said just that. People have said, we don't care. We want some action.
Right.
And like I said, nobody can fault him for having manpower issues. They just exist.
Right.
But the reality is, to have an attitude like to say that, look it, you can not say it outright, we're throwing in a towel, but don't say there's nothing we can do, because that's what a leader does. They find ways to do it. They find things to do. They try things. So now what are we all supposed to do? The hell with it. We just accept crime. And by the way, the chief has an open invitation to sit right at this desk, and we can discuss it, and we'll give him a whole half an hour. But I don't agree with that attitude. I'm sorry. When I went to a fire, if I was undermanned and I was a chief, I had to deal with the fact that I had to prioritize things, and I had to get the job done. Was I going to get more property damage? Yeah. Was there a greater risk of life? But I went on record as saying that. But you've got to be proactive. There is never a time with public safety to accept being reactive.
And I will close with this in regards to this topic. Basically that's the excuse. Well, this is a national issue.
Yes.
But do you want to know what else is a national issue? Fires. But guess what? The fire department doesn't let those run rampant, do they?
Well, it's not a national issue. It's not a national issue in Newton.
Nope.
It's not a national issue in the rich towns.
There you go.
That's it.
Right, because the rich towns will not number one condone. There's no drug treatment facilities in the rich towns.
They send them to Fall River.
That's right. There's no, there's not homeless in those towns.
Nope.
You don't have a homeless problem, and they don't have massive, drug issues. Not only homeless encampments, drug issues, and they allowed crime. You notice that there are a lot of communities. We hear about San Francisco, you hear about New York City, you hear about Fall River, but you don't hear about, Newton had a pizza place broken into twice. It's statewide news.
Right.
It's state news that they had a pizza place broken into. Mm-hmm. Not bullets flying all over the place. Listen, I could go on. This just, if you want to push one of my buttons, this is the button to push.
Hence why I pushed it.
I apologize for waste. It's not a waste of time,
Nope.
but using so much time because we got so much to talk about.
All right.
Hence why I pushed that button.
Okay.
As we know, he called in yesterday and gave another excuse, that he's tabling it now. He's tabling his $11 million cut to education. I did some digging. And basically, I looked around, and basically it has the same type of procedures. He sent it on to the council. You need a majority, 5 people. And by the way, he's putting 5 people. He's putting the entire council on the spot. Okay. Then it talks about sending it to to the mayor for his signature, and then sending it to state representatives. At least one of them, 1%, has to receive this letter, and they have to be notified and all this stuff. You know what? At the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. I don't see $11 million. No. I'm a visionary. I see the big picture of things. Okay? This is the number that I see. $110 million. Paul, if you can't do numbers, you can't do math. It's 11 times 10. This is it right here. Given these test scores, it's low performance. Does our school department deserve this type of cut? No. Is that fair and equitable to our students? Hell no. Basically, he wants to be bailed out because his scratch ticket is running dry, and that's basically what it comes down to. It pisses me off is that after receiving a $70 million scratch ticket, There are no grounds that man will go just to get money. And now our children have to suffer even more when the CFO said that it's a cut, and then the superintendent said it will be devastating to my budget.
Yeah, well, there's another problem here too, Nelson, and hold up that number for the long term. Where's the number?
Right
this
here.
Is what you see.
Oh, and by the
years.
way, in this picture here, this equates to, like, I think over 3,000 square feet of a ranch in California. So you want to talk about California, this is a big ranch down here, but I wanted to get the sunshine in with some nice coloring, but I wanted to focus on this number. This is every 10 years. Our school department will go without if Paul Coogan gets his way. Oh, and by the way, I'll send it off to you. Before he even gets to this number, he'll be long gone before
That's
he gets
right.
here. He'll be long gone.
Okay, let's put this into perspective, and it's my opinion, but I think I got a pretty good prima facie circumstantial evidence case. All this is about politics. It's about Paul Coogan, a mayor who's done nothing about crime, drugs, affordable housing, anything to help the life of the people in Fall River to cover for the next election. He got $70 million for a bailout, remember, ARPA. And what did he do with it? He blew it on all his friends and projects, nothing about affordable housing. But remember, before we got that scratch ticket, he was going to reinstitute the purple bags. She said, Mary Sahadi said it, and we got it. He said he was definitely going to bring in the fee, the collection fee, and he was going to cut fire and police and ask for a 2.5 override. We will remind everybody during the election year. Now we look at this. Why did he table this? You know why? Because he didn't want his friendly city council to get whipped out of office like he will if he cuts $11 million from the school department. He doesn't want to have his his friendly state representatives having to go up in Boston and try to say, we want to cut money from our children's education. And I just wanted, this is if you go online, you can find it too. It's what is a home rule petition?
Right.
And this is from mass.gov. Mass.gov, they don't know what they're talking about.
Nope.
The state doesn't know what they're talking about.
The Division of Local Services. And I'm just going to give you one. It's 2.5 pages. It's small, but I don't want to read. This is just this little line. Remember he said we got to get some more people on board?
Yep.
That's horse manure because a home rule petition is about the city of Fall River and
Correct.
the rest of the state doesn't give two craps about what we do in Fall River.
There you
go. The state does, because this is what it says. And I'm reading this. This is if you put it on 8.5 by 11 paper, it'll be the second page, the third paragraph. It says, that is, a provision of local law will stand only so long as it is not inconsistent with the state constitution or general laws. And our general laws on net school spending have nothing to say about busing.
That's right.
So if they tried to get this home rule petition through, they're violating what
it was going to die, and that's why he tabled it. He knew he was told it was going to die, and he needs support from other cities and towns so he can quote unquote start the conversation. He wants to start the conversation.
About what? You think what does Newton care if we cut $11 million from our kids?
Right.
Because look, when you got Charlie Clueless up there in the office, who's never done anything, never dealt with laws, never dealt with anything, and he doesn't have any idea of the process. I pushed the home rule petition through, and there are negative and positive home rules. Sometimes home rule petitions are used to take care of political friends, like the police chief of Braintree, who they pushed the home rule through. You'll remember that.
I remember that.
That he could
retire.
He could retire and get 100% of his pension while he got his 100% of his pay working again as a police chief. I'll tell you about my home rule petition quickly, and then we can get into the Army. But the home rule petition I did was, I don't know if you remember, but Paul Bernard, who died at Roma Chemical at a fire. And, a little backstory on that. Paul was a very good friend of mine. He got on the job. He worked with me as a lieutenant. And when I was studying for captain, I helped him study for lieutenant. And our daughters went to school together, and we had not seen each other for a while on a department because he was in a different section of the city. And I walked in one day. We were getting off duty, and I walked out in the kitchen, and there was Paul. And I said, yeah, what are you doing here? You want on overtime? He said, no, I transferred down here, he said, because I want to be closer to my house, because he lived in the South End. He said, 10 years at the Flint was enough, and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. So I had a coffee. I stayed a little longer. I notified the other chief I'd get him late. We'd get him later. And I had a coffee with him, and we were still in the state association, so I went to the state meeting. And when I got home, when I drove up the driveway, my wife ran out of the house and said, you got to get to headquarters right now. And I said, why? She said, Paul Bernard died at a fire less than 2 hours after I had coffee with him, which was bad enough. Of course, then we had to do the PSOB claims. And for firefighters or police officers who are killed in the line of duty get what they call a PSOB, and they also get some special benefits because they died in the line of duty. One is that their children go to any state college tuition free. So many years later, probably 12, 14, I forgot exactly how old my daughter was because she was his daughter's age, but she wasn't like a baby. She was preparing to go to college, and I got a call from Paul Bernard's wife to say she wanted to become a pharmacist. And there's no pharmacology schools in Massachusetts. So I did some research and found out they do offer pharmacology in Rhode Island.
Right.
And we have a reciprocal agreement that they will be treated as residents, so I could get her into that college. But the law did not allow us to pay a Rhode Island school. So I initiated a home rule petition to have that exemption for the daughter of a firefighter who died in the line of duty, to have her college paid, in Rhode Island, and she went and became a pharmacist. So home rule petitions can be used both ways. Paul was using it to, as Nelson said, to free up money so he could blow mower, and now they're in full political. He tabled it because number one, he knew the council wouldn't back it because they'd get thrown out. The school committee's not going to back it because even one of his people said, I'm concerned about this. So we'll table it because we know, and it's. But I can tell you one thing: if he gets reelected, all this stuff's coming back.
And I just want to say real quick, last year, we all know this place, right? This is the State House.
Yep.
Last year, we all know that he attended that meeting with the United Interfaith. And, this was July 22nd of last year, basically 6 days before my birthday. Granted, you have people saying they're going to get priced out, once the South Coast Rail comes here. You want to know what Charlie Baker did? You want to know what the state did?
We know.
When it comes to housing, they put in $400 million.
That's right, $400 million.
$400 million, and that was the Senate's version. They upped the ante. And it's like, you look everywhere. This man has waged a real class war against his own people.
That's right.
Because now they put market rate housing in the Walmart Street area in Rodman. And let's not forget about what they wanted to do with Tupper Heights. Okay, an agreement that was meant to put in housing for elderly, veterans, and the low income.
Right.
And what? So they wanted to give that land to more of these developers to push people out. A real class war, and it's coming into fruition. And lastly, I'll say, look at this beauty right here. We all know what this is, right? This is what this says. This is from Lori Cabral. See all that green? That will be the homeless camp Wyeth Waterview. The rents are going to force many to live in a tent, and Fall River is preparing a nice manicured lot. People are starting to see it. They're starting to see this experiment that's supposed to transform our city. It's just all meant to price everyone out. And the man at the top, where the money was there, $400 million, he is in the way. He is literally in the way of the ones who need a roof, to have a roof over their head. But he don't care about that. He don't care. He don't give a damn about education. $110 million is what he wants to take out. But you know what, Paulie? I have to tell you, you are the only mayor that I've seen that will go to this lengths. And pretty soon, with documentation, it will be shown that you are, without a doubt, a liar and a thief. Because there is no line that you will cross, even if it means stealing money out of the people's pockets, especially as to why people have been complaining about
That's
their
de facto stealing, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So I just want to end with that, but
all right,
that's
good.
coming soon.
So let's segue quickly into this great article from the chief propagandist at the Herald News for Paul Coogan, Joe Good.
Yeah.
Bank Street Armory has potential buyer. The project could transform downtown because the developer, whose name I always forget,
Alan Macomber.
who's already got units down there with no parking, said that it would be transformative. Okay, here's another pile of manure for the but I want you to, CJ, we're gonna let you take this one because I know you know, but before I just want to ask you, transformative, I love these words, transformative, gateway city, that will bring people in, carousel, all these wonderful embellishments. Oh, look at it, it's going to be so wonderful. They're going to block the Fall River. But when's the last time a bunch of apartments transformed anything? You know what transforms a downtown? Businesses.
That's right.
People that spend money. You want to see transformation, and I'll give you this one. I will tell you, someday, it's only about 2.5 hour drive, if the traffic's okay, if you go through Boston. Maybe 2:45. Go to Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine is one of the most wonderful medium-sized cities in the United States, and it was transformed from an absolute crap hole. Now, if you go down there to the waterfront and to the city itself, they have shops, they have everything. That's what transforms the city. They even have one that my son likes to frequent. I've never gone there, but I do go to Portland a lot because I go to Maine a lot, obviously. But there's a place that actually does French fries and duck fat, and for some reason he said they're the best French fries he's ever tasted. So, but I mean, that's not the point. The point is apartments don't transform. Transformative, because you got a bunch of apartments that's going to transfer. Who says that if these rich yuppies, which they're never going to come down, if they did, you think they're going to go shopping in Fall River? No, there's nothing to do. You think they're going to open up stores because they're there? When everybody knows, if you look at a business plan, you've got to look at operating in the red for at least a year. They can't do that because those yuppies are going to go to Providence and Boston to shop. This is nothing more than political propaganda.
Well, what's very interesting also, and this proves the propaganda, it's going to redevelop into 37 market rate apartments. 37 market. Here we go with the market rate again. But here's the caveat. Possibly a mixed rate project with 20% of the units deemed affordable. That's about 7 units.
Oh God.
Okay. And that's only if Macomber gets money from CDA to do that. Okay? And remember, the ZBA, the zoning board, has got to grant the variance because he's got no parking.
Paul's going to correct you. I just did that quickly. It's 7.4 units. So 0.4 people can be in them. They're going to have a unit for 0.4 people. Okay, I just wanted to get that one in, CJ.
Oh God.
No, but I mean, you have to look at it. And there was only one bidder, and we knew there'd only be one bidder. So.
And where's he going to park the cars, CJ? Why don't you tell us about the cars?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what I just said. The ZBA is going to destroy the neighborhood. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. We'll discuss this a little further on Monday. Ooh, yeah. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Monday.
No.